My name is Emma, I'm 30 years old. Today I'm going to talk about the day that I gave my parents $1,000 a week. They didn't invite me to their birthday. They'll regret it. It's a pleasure to have you here. Stay tuned until the end and tell me which city you're watching from. I want to know how far my story has gone. And click on like, subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss the next stories here on the channel. I was 25 when I started sending my parents $1,000 a week. At first, it felt like the right thing to do. They'd struggled all their lives, raising me and my older sister Laura on my dad's factory salary and my mom's part-time cleaning jobs. When my business finally took off, I felt proud, like I was giving back. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. My name's Emma. I'm 30 now, and I've spent the last 5 years wiring money every Friday to my parents' joint account. No questions asked. They never had to call or remind me. It was as routine as brushing my teeth. And in all those years, not once did they say thank you. Not really. I used to brush it off. They're old-fashioned, I told myself. They're not good with words. But last month, something happened that cracked everything wide open. And now, I can't unsee it. It started when I saw a post on Facebook. A photo of my parents' living room, decorated with gold balloons and a giant banner that read Happy 60th. There was a mariachi band, catered food, dozens of people I recognized, neighbors, church folks, even distant cousins. Everyone was smiling, laughing. Except me. Because I wasn't there. I hadn't even been invited. I scrolled in silence, my thumb trembling. More pictures followed. My sister Laura standing proudly beside mom and dad, holding a cake with sparkling candles. A family photo, everyone huddled together in a big group hug. Everyone except the woman who's been paying the bills. I didn't cry right away. My chest felt tight, like someone had pulled a cord around my lungs. I called my mom the next day. She answered on the third ring, chipper as always. Hi, sweetheart. Everything okay? Did I do something wrong? I asked. My voice cracked. She paused. What do you mean? Your birthday party. You didn't invite me. You didn't even tell me it was happening. Another pause. Then a shallow laugh. Oh, Emma. We didn't want to bother you. You're always so busy. But you invited everyone else. Laura helped organize it. It was just a small gathering. Don't take it personally. Don't take it personally. I ended the call before I said something I'd regret. Then I sat there in my kitchen, in silence, staring at my phone. I kept replaying the same thought. They didn't forget. They chose not to invite me. A week later, I didn't send the money. It wasn't a statement at first. I just couldn't do it. Not after that. I felt like a fool. All those years of automatic payments, thinking I was being a good daughter. Thinking that maybe, just maybe if I gave enough, they'd see me, love me, appreciate me. Instead, they threw a party and acted like I didn't exist. They didn't call when the deposit didn't come. Not that day. Not the next. Not for a week. It was as if I'd never existed to them outside that $1,000 routine. It wasn't until the second missed payment that my dad called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. Hey Emma, just checking in. We didn't see the transfer last Friday. Everything okay? Call us back. No mention of the party. No mention of the hurt. Just the money. I felt hollow. It's not about the money. It never was. It's about what it represented. A way to be needed. Valued. Maybe even loved. And now I see it for what it is, a transaction. I gave. They took. No questions asked. I talked to my therapist about it. She asked, what would happen if you stopped giving altogether? I didn't have an answer. But I knew I was about to find out. Because for the first time in 5 years, I wasn't going to send a dime. And I wasn't going to explain myself. Let them feel the silence. Let them wonder. Let them remember who kept the lights on all these years. And maybe, just maybe, they'd regret what they did. But I wasn't waiting for it. I had my own reckoning to face. One that started with a question I'd avoided for too long. Who am I without their approval? I didn't know the answer. Yet. But I was about to find out. The second week, without the payment, passed. Then the third. And just like that, the silence broke. Laura called me on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the middle of a client meeting, but something in me made me step outside to take it. Maybe I was hoping for something human. Maybe I still believed she'd understand. Emma, what's going on? Mom and Dad are really upset. Are they? I said flatly. Or are they just missing the money? There was a beat of silence. You're being dramatic. You could have at least warned them. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the audacity hit me like a slap. Warn them? Did they warn me when they decided I didn't deserve a chair at their party? It wasn't like that. You always make everything about you. I bit my lip so hard I tasted blood. That line. That exact line. It was Laura's favorite whenever I called out something cruel or unfair. They didn't even mention me in the speech, Laura. I saw the video. Mom thanked you for helping. She thanked the caterer, the church ladies, but not a single word about me. I've given them over $200,000 these last 5 years. And it's like I'm invisible. She didn't argue, just sighed. They're old. They don't think like you do. They appreciate you, just not in the way you want. I don't want appreciation, Laura. I want to feel like their daughter. I ended the call. That night, I turned off my phone. No more calls. No more explanations. 2 days later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. From my mother. I stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Emma, we noticed you haven't sent anything this month. We're not angry. We just hope everything is all right. If there's something going on, please tell us. We miss hearing from you. Love, Mom. No mention of the party. No apology. Not even a recognition of the pain. Just a soft nudge to resume the routine. I didn't respond. Instead, I started journaling every night. Trying to trace back when I started believing that being useful was the same as being loved. Trying to understand why I stayed in a dynamic that made me feel so small. I remembered things I hadn't let myself think about in years. How, as a child, I had to remind my mom to show up to parent-teacher conferences. How Laura got a car at 18 while I had to take the bus until I bought my own. How every family story involved my sacrifices being framed as obligations, while Laura's smallest efforts were celebrated like miracles. I began to realize something. They didn't see me. Not really. They saw what I could provide. What I could solve. I was the fixer, the dependable one, the successful daughter. But never just Emma. A week later, I visited my old neighborhood. I hadn't been back in years. The streets looked smaller than I remembered. The local diner still stood, a little more worn but familiar. I stopped by my old high school, wandered the halls, pretending I had business there until I ran into Mrs. Hernandez, my 10th grade English teacher. She recognized me instantly. Emma Ramirez. I'd recognize that posture anywhere. You always sat so straight, even when you hated the lesson. We laughed. She asked about my life. I told her a little. She told me she'd always known I'd make it. You were determined. Fierce. But you had this sadness too. Like you were trying to prove something. I hope someone saw that. I didn't realize I was crying until she handed me a tissue. Maybe it's time someone did. I whispered. That day changed something in me. It reminded me that there were people in my life, however few, who saw beyond what I gave. Who saw me. I made a quiet decision that evening. I wouldn't go back to being the bank. I wouldn't re-establish the payments just to keep the peace. If they wanted a relationship, it would have to be real. Mutual. Not bought. For now, I would pour my energy elsewhere. Into people who valued connection. Into the parts of me I had ignored to keep playing the good daughter. But I knew my family. They wouldn't let it go that easily. And I was right. Because the next time the phone rang, it wasn't Laura. It was my father. And what he said would unravel everything I thought I still knew. Emma, we need to talk. About the house. His voice was tight, uncomfortable. And for the first time, I heard something different in it. Desperation. What would you do if it were you? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe and activate the bell to receive all notifications so you don't miss the next story. I didn't answer right away. My father's voice on the voicemail was unfamiliar. Not the commanding, gruff tone I grew up with. This one had cracks in it, quiet, rushed, like he was holding back a panic attack. Emma, we need to talk. It's about the house. I waited 2 days. Then I called him back. He picked up on the first ring. Emma. Thank God. Listen, What's wrong with the house? A pause. Then a deep sigh. The mortgage. We've fallen behind. Your mother was supposed to manage it, but things got mixed up. And then your payments stopped, Anne. My payments? You mean the money I sent every week without fail for 5 years? That money. He flinched. I could hear it in his voice. We had some unexpected expenses. Your mom's medical stuff. Laura's car repairs. It added up. I leaned against the kitchen counter. My hands were shaking. How far behind are you? He cleared his throat. 3 months. The bank's talking foreclosure. I was silent. Not out of malice. I just didn't know what to say. How do you respond when the people who raised you, who took from you without a word of thanks, suddenly need you again? But this time, they can't hide it behind pride. What do you want from me? I asked quietly. He hesitated. We were hoping you could catch us up. Just until things settle. Dad, there is no just anymore. You threw a party and didn't invite me. You erased me from my own family. And now you want me to bail you out. It's not like that, he said. We made a mistake. We didn't think you'd care that much. I swallowed hard. You didn't think I'd care that you excluded me from your lives? After everything I've done? Silence. I could feel the burn behind my eyes, but I refused to cry. I'll think about it, I said. But I'm not promising anything. I hung up. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. My mind raced. It wasn't about the money. I could have covered 3 months easily. But something inside me resisted. I couldn't just step back into the role of the fixer, the financier, the daughter who gives and gives until she's hollow. And yet, they were going to lose their home. The same home I grew up in. The same front steps where I sat with scraped knees. The kitchen where I did homework while Mom cooked. The hallway where I used to eavesdrop on adult conversations. The place where I was invisible, yes, but still, my history lived there. 2 days later, I called the bank. Asked questions. Got answers. Learned that the situation was bad, but not irreversible. Then I did something that felt both defiant and heartbreaking. I made a payment. 1. Enough to pause the foreclosure process. And then I called my parents. You're safe for now, I said. But this isn't a reset. I'm not going back to the weekly deposits. This isn't that. My mom started to cry. My dad cleared his throat and muttered something that might have been gratitude. I didn't ask. The call ended. And I felt empty. I needed to break the cycle. So I started looking for something else to pour myself into. Something that wasn't bloodbound. Something that didn't expect me to bleed just to be seen. That's when I remembered Sophia. She was one of my first clients. Back when I was just starting out. A single mom trying to open a small boutique. She never had much money, but she had spirit. We lost touch after her shop closed. I found her on LinkedIn and reached out. She was shocked but thrilled to hear from me. Said she was working with young women in the community, mentoring them, helping them find jobs, confidence, purpose. You'd love it, Emma, she said. You've always had that fire. That way of making people believe they could do more. I didn't think anyone remembered that about me. She invited me to speak to a group of women the following week. I said yes. It felt strange, stepping into a room where no one wanted anything from me but my story. Afterward, one of the women hugged me. She said, "You made me feel like I matter." And for the first time in months, I believed I did. It was small, simple, but something shifted in me. I started showing up there more often. I didn't talk about my family. I didn't need to. These women saw me, not as a wallet, not as a savior, just as a person. And slowly, I started becoming one again. But my family wasn't done with me. Not yet. Because Laura was about to make a move I didn't see coming. And it would tear open a wound I thought had finally begun to close. It started with a text from a number I didn't recognize. You might want to know what your sister's been saying about you. Check the local Facebook group. I hesitated. The old me would have ignored it, avoided the drama. But curiosity, and maybe a sliver of dread, got the better of me. I opened the community group, The one my parents' neighborhood used for everything from lost pets to garage sales. The post was from Laura. No names, of course. But everyone knew who she meant. It's sad when people put money above family. Some folks think a few checks entitle them to loyalty. But family isn't a business transaction. You don't abandon people just because you're not being worshipped. The comments were even worse. Neighbors chiming in with sympathetic replies. You're so strong, Laura. Some people just love drama. They forget who really cared. I read every word. My heart pounded. My cheeks burned. I knew Laura. I knew how she spun things. But seeing it there, public, weaponized, it felt like betrayal all over again. What I didn't expect was the message that came 2 days later. From Mrs. Duncan, our old neighbor. Emma, I saw what Laura posted. I just wanted you to know, not everyone believes her. Some of us remember who paid for the new roof. And the food bank drives. We see you. It hit me like a wave. Because it was the first time someone from their world had acknowledged me. Not for the money, but for showing up. For caring. And it reminded me why I had pulled back in the first place. Still, Laura's stunt hurt. It reopened something I was trying to close. So I confronted her. Texted her first. Saw your post. Clever. She replied within seconds. If the shoe fits. You weaponized my generosity. Again. No. You stopped helping and threw a tantrum when we didn't worship you. That's not generosity. That's control. I stared at my screen for a long time. Then I wrote. I was never trying to control anyone. I was trying to belong. She didn't answer. I should have let it go. I really should have. But it didn't sit right with me, how she got to shape the story. So I made a quiet decision. I invited my parents to lunch. Neutral ground. A quiet cafe across town. They arrived together, my mother looking anxious, my father stiff. Thank you for coming, I said, trying to steady my breath. I wanted to say something face to face. They looked at each other, then at me. I'm done, I said. With the money. With the guilt. With earning my place in this family. My mom's eyes welled up. Emma, we never asked. You never had to ask, I interrupted. Because you knew I'd give. And that made it easier to ignore me. Easier to favor Laura. Easier to pretend I didn't matter, unless I was paying. My father leaned back. We didn't mean for it to feel that way. But it did. For years. And I let it happen because I thought if I just gave enough, you'd finally see me. But I see now. I was never the daughter you wanted. Just the daughter you needed. They were silent. I continued. I made one final payment on the house. You're not in danger. But I won't be sending anything else. I hope someday you'll understand. My mother started to speak, but I stood up. I'm not angry. I'm just done. And I walked away. That night, I slept without clenching my jaw. It wasn't peace yet. But it was the beginning. Still, I knew this wasn't over. Not completely. Because I hadn't said goodbye to the house. And something in me knew I needed to go back, one last time. Not to fix anything. Just to see it through new eyes. I waited a few weeks before going back. I needed the dust to settle. Not around them, but inside me. When I finally pulled into the old driveway, my stomach turned. The house looked the same, but everything about it felt different. The siding had faded more than I remembered. The flowers in the front yard were dying. Even the porch swing where I used to sit as a kid was missing one of its chains, hanging crooked. I rang the doorbell. My father answered. He looked tired. Thinner. Emma, he said, like he wasn't sure if he should be surprised or relieved. I just wanted to see the house. He nodded and stepped aside. I walked in. The living room hadn't changed. Same couch. Same old rug. The walls still held pictures. But I noticed mine were gone. Just Laura now. Laura on vacation. Laura with Mom. Laura's kids. A family album with my page torn out. Mom's in the kitchen, he said. She'll be glad to see you. But I didn't go. Instead, I walked the hallway slowly. Let my fingers brush the frame of my old bedroom door. The door was cracked open. Inside, the space had been turned into a storage room. Boxes stacked against the walls, Christmas decorations, random furniture. Like I'd never lived there at all. I walked to the kitchen doorway, but I didn't step in. My mom turned and froze. Her hands were wet from the sink. "Hi," she said. Her voice was small. "Hi." A long silence. "I'm not here to argue," I said. "Or to talk about money. I just wanted to say goodbye." Goodbye. To the house. To the idea that this was ever going to be home again. She wiped her hands on a towel. Her eyes were glassy. "We never meant to make you feel left out." I wasn't left out. I was never let in. I turned to leave. As I stepped back outside, the air hit different. Sharper, cleaner. Like I'd walked through something and come out the other side. On the way back to my car, I noticed the swing again. Still broken. I paused. Then, without really knowing why, I walked to the garage and opened the side door. Tools were still there. Rusty but usable. I grabbed a wrench, a bolt, and a screwdriver. It took me 15 minutes. When I was done, the swing was steady. Balanced. I didn't sit in it. I just looked at it. Then walked away. That night, I got a text from Laura. One sentence. "You fixed the swing?" I didn't answer. Because it wasn't for her. And it wasn't for them. It was for the girl I used to be. The one who sat there hoping someone would notice her. She deserved that much. The next morning, I woke up early. Made coffee. Opened the window. Let the sunlight in. And for the first time in a long time, I felt light. Not because they changed. Because I finally had. It's been a year. 12 full months since I stopped being their provider. Since I walked away from the invisible contract I never agreed to but kept fulfilling anyway. In that time, they've called a handful of times. I never blocked them. I didn't want to turn cold, just clear. Sometimes I answered, sometimes I didn't. The calls grew less frequent, then stopped altogether. I guess they finally understood that the well had dried up. Laura tried one last stunt around the holidays. She sent me a Christmas card with a photo of her family in matching pajamas. Inside it read, "Hope you find your way back to us someday. Family is everything." I didn't respond. Because I had found my way, just not back to them. Instead, I kept showing up at the community center. I joined the board. I helped Sophia launch a mentorship program for women starting over, divorcees, single mothers, women who'd been written off or pushed aside. Women like me in a way. They didn't ask for money. They asked for presence. For guidance. For belief. And I gave it freely. Not out of guilt. Not because I needed to be seen. But because I finally knew what it felt like to give without being emptied. One afternoon, after a workshop, a woman pulled me aside. Her name was Denise. She'd come to every session, quiet and skeptical, arms always crossed. "I used to think people like you had no idea what it felt like," she said. "What do you mean, people like me?" "Put together. Successful. Unbreakable. But then I heard your story. And I realized you weren't above the pain. You just didn't let it define you." I smiled. Not because I needed the praise, but because I recognized what she was really saying. She saw me. Weeks later, I got a message from my dad. Just a voicemail. I listened to it on a Sunday morning while watering my plants. "Hey Emma. Just wanted to say, we miss you. And we're proud of you. Even if we never said it right. I hope you're happy." I played it twice. Then deleted it. Because I didn't need it anymore. Forgiveness came, not as a wave, but as a soft, steady tide. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need them to fall apart without me. I just needed to know that I could stand without them. And I had. I moved into a small house with a garden. I planted rosemary and lavender and watched them grow. On weekends, I read in the sunlight and walked barefoot in the grass. Sometimes, I passed old family photos while unpacking. I didn't throw them out. I just put them in a box. Not to forget, but to release. Because the story wasn't about what they took. It was about what I reclaimed. My peace. My self-worth. My voice. And somewhere in all that silence and sunlight, I found something I never expected to. Freedom. Real, full, quiet freedom. And I didn't need anyone's permission to keep it. Not anymore. If you like stories like these, click like, subscribe, activate the bell, and send it to someone you think will also like it.